So, for the 25th time this year, we're getting another biopic that's slightly more than Marvel used to put out in a good year, and I use the term good here in a very subjective way. Now, if you're anything like me, I can already hear the eye roll. Another based on the true story, another pain and redemption arc, another conveniently placed third act victory. I mean, we've seen it 1,000 times. So why am I reviewing this title, one that seemed really destined to disappoint? Well, because the promo materials and the early buzz out of the Venice Film Festival hinted at something different. But the question is, does Benny Safdie's solo debut deliver on that promise? Well, that's what I'm here to answer. I'm Pedro from Vinyl N Celluloid, and this is my review of The Smashing Machine.
Of a distant sun, I can feel it inside. Maybe this day could be the one.
Now look, if you've watched any of the prior videos or read my reviews on Letterboxd, you already know where I stand on biographical movies. Most biopics these days feel like the perfect product for a post-literate world, made for audiences with the attention span of a peanut, people who won't read a book or sit through a real documentary. And on top of that, they're manipulative by nature, designed to sentimentalize and oversimplify lives that were anything but simple. They sugarcoat the rough edges, flatten the contradictions, and serve up a polished version of reality that feels both dishonest and predictable. The structure is always the same: struggle, montage, redemption. The genre runs on emotional shortcuts. What's worse, it's a self-replicating machine. Studios keep churning them out because they win awards and make people feel like they've watched something profound when they really haven't. They're cinematic comfort food. All calories, no nourishment. Sure, they do generate awareness about key figures. I mean, I doubt the majority of Gen Z TikTok users even knew who Oppenheimer was before Nolan's movie came out 2 years ago. But that's a minor positive side effect. See, in my book, there are only two reasons for a biopic to be made. A lack of extensive knowledge or materials covering the life of a real individual whose story is worth telling. Or B, a new angle to frame the same played-out tropes. A narrative form or structure that departs from the usual based on a true story routine. Now, true, like most things in life, there are exceptions, but very rarely do we come across a movie that meets both criteria. The Smashing Machine is one such example. But before I tell you why Safdie's film made an impression on me, here's a quick recap of the plot. Based on real events, The Smashing Machine follows mixed martial arts Mark Kerr, played by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, one of the most dominant yet self-destructive fighters of his era. At the height of his career in the late 90s and early 2000s, Kerr was a two-time UFC champion and a legend in Japan's Pride Fighting Championships, a man defined by strength, yet undone by his own insecurities and addiction. The film zeroes in on this turbulent stretch of his life, the physical toll of constant fighting, the emotional collapse that follows fame, and the unstable relationship with his girlfriend Dawn, played by Emily Blunt. As Carl's world narrows to hotels, locker rooms, and the arena floor, we see a portrait, not of triumph, but of a man quietly coming apart whilst trying to hold everything together. Now, as you can tell, the film had all the ingredients to be yet another sappy story, but it manages to avoid the genre's dramatic pitfalls through a well-calibrated combination of several elements. For starters, The Smashing Machine has a distinctive style. What Safdie does here is something most directors wouldn't even attempt. He builds a biopic that doesn't unfold like one. Instead, it feels like a documentary someone accidentally left running after the subject stopped caring about the camera. Gone are the rousing speeches, the slow-motion training montages, and the over-orchestrated breakdowns. Safdie opts for texture, granular, almost documentary-like realism that strips the genre of its artificiality. He leans heavily on handheld camera work, grainy film stock, and fragmented editing. The story unfolds in pieces, like memories half forgotten, moments stitched together, not by plot, but by emotion. You can feel the DNA of Uncut Gems and Good Time, two titles helmed by the Safdie brothers, and here, the chaos, the sweat, the anxiety. But in the case of The Smashing Machine, everything is subdued, contained. Like all the nervous energy has been swallowed, rather than unleashed. Now, you see, this restraint is deliberate. Safdie rejects the emotional manipulations most biopics thrive on. There's no big speech, no last-minute comeback, no moral epiphany that ties it all together. He gives us the portrayal of a man at war with himself. Mark Kerr, an MMA fighter at the peak of his fame, yet at the lowest point of his life. It's a movie about self-destruction, but treated with empathy. Safdie doesn't demand our sympathy. He earns it by letting us sit in the silence, the repetition, the exhaustion. Oh yeah, The Smashing Machine plays kind of like an anti-biopic. It rejects the genre's architecture completely. It's not about glory or defeat. It's about the gray, the in-between, the part no one wants to shoot. Now let's pause here for a second for me to address one of the biggest complaints that have been thrown at this movie by those who've watched it: the pacing. Many found The Smashing Machine slow, too quiet, too repetitive. Some even said it goes nowhere, and others called it emotionally distant. And you know what? They're right, in a way. This isn't a movie that moves fast. It doesn't care about narrative propulsion. Safdie's not interested in giving you a highlight reel of fights or a cathartic third-act explosion. What he's doing is much riskier. He's recreating the rhythm of Kerr's life. That repetition, train, fight, crash, repeat, isn't bad pacing. It's the whole damn point. It's what addiction feels like, something Kerr dealt with during this period of his life. It's also what burnout looks like. Safdie builds that sense of monotony deliberately. He forces you to sit in it, the routine, the silence, the exhaustion. That's how you feel the weight of Kerr's choices. It's not about energy, it's about erosion. And while some call it emotionally cold, look, I'd call it honest. This isn't a story about victory or redemption, it's about endurance. And sometimes endurance doesn't look cinematic. It looks repetitive, quiet, and yeah, painfully human. So yeah, this title is slow, but that slowness is where its power lives. It's not here to thrill you. It's here to wear you down just enough that when the emotionally finally hits, you actually feel it. Of course, none of this would matter without the performances, and that brings us to the real revelation here, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. To be completely honest, when the film was first announced, I'll admit I laughed. The Rock in an A24 movie directed by Benny Safdie. Sure, what's next? We'll see Vin Diesel doing Bergman. But you know what? They all proved me wrong. Johnson completely disappears into Mark Kerr. And no, I'm not talking about the fact that it's the first time we probably see The Rock sporting hair in the last 2 decades. This isn't the usual grin and grit persona we've seen in the action titles he has starred in. This is a man stripped bare. His performance is physical, yes, but it's the stillness that hits hardest. The silent moments where his face says more than any line could. Gone is the action hero swagger. In its place, vulnerability, fear, confusion, all the characteristics of this gentle giant. You can see him wrestling with his own myth, and yes, past successes. The world's idea of Dwayne Johnson versus the broken soul of Mark Kerr. It's the kind of performance that reminds you what star power actually means when it's used to humanize rather than dominate. There's a raging bull level of fragility here, not in violence but in despair. You sense the pain in every movement, every pause. Emily Blunt matches him with the performance that refuses cliché. Her character Dawn isn't a prop, nor is she the tired, long-suffering wife. She's volatile, wounded, sometimes cruel, sometimes compassionate, a mirror to Kerr's unraveling psyche. Their relationship becomes the film's hidden background. Love as codependency, compassion as conflict. It's messy, it's human, and Hollywood rarely allows it. Critics who call Blunt underused miss the point. She's not there to offer redemption. She's there to show how impossible it is to love someone who can't love themselves. She's also a crucial part of Kerr's environment. And speaking of environment, if there's another reason The Smashing Machine rises above the rest, it's the setting. By moving most of the film to Japan, Safdie brings us something that feels both intimate and epic. Japan isn't just a backdrop, it's an emotion and cultural crucible. Within the world of the Pride Fighting Championships, Kerr's battles take on a new meaning. Here's a man defined by violence, suddenly immersed in a culture of restraint, ritual, and composure. A place where decorum rules and chaos hides behind a polite smile. The result is fascinating. The film becomes about control, physical, emotional, cultural. We watch Carr drift through neon arcades and silent hotel rooms, trapped between worlds he doesn't really belong to. The director frames Japan as both beautiful and suffocating, the order and politeness amplifying Carr's internal disarray. And as a result, every quiet hallway, every single locker become an extension of the lead's mind. Even his small rebellions, challenging a referee, snapping at a promoter, feel futile, swallowed by the weight of restraint. And then there's that recurring motif of kintsugi. Yes, it's a little too on the nose, but for the most part it actually works. The shattered bowl, reassembled with gold, becomes the perfect metaphor. Card 2 is a broken vessel, desperately trying to find beauty in his own damage. What I love most about this stretch is how Japan reframes everything we've seen before. It's no longer about sport, but survival. About a man who can destroy anyone in the ring, but can't hold himself together outside of it. And Safdie shoots it all with the eye of an anthropologist, fascinated, empathetic, and flinching. And if the setting is the body of the film, then the music is its soul. The score, by Belgian composer Nala Sinefro, is extraordinary. It's her first foray into film music, and she delivers something that feels alive, disarmingly rich, romantic, and yet always teetering on the edge of melancholy. She blends ambient jazz, harp, and experimental synths, sounds that shimmer like light on broken glass, perfectly mirroring Carl's internal world. What's striking is how the score doesn't underline the violence, it actually softens it. For example, when Carr fights, the music doesn't roar, it breathes. When he breaks, it doesn't scream, it aches. And then you've got Safdie's needle drops, a patchwork of Springsteen's Jungle Land, Elvis Presley's cover of My Way, and even Limelight, a personal favorite track by the criminally underrated group Alan Parsons Project. Each one feels earned, not nostalgic. And yeah, they're not there to tell you how to feel, they reflect how the lead character feels. Together, Sinefro's score and Safdie's soundtrack do something rare. They elevate a sports biopic into something poetic. Now, I know what you might be thinking. This all sounds great, so why wasn't it a commercial hit? Made on a $50 million budget, it opened to just $6 million domestically and a little over $7 million worldwide. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the lowest opening of Johnson's entire career. Audience and critical reception was divided, strong but not ecstatic. The festival buzz was high. Venice adored it, but that momentum fizzled as it reached general audiences. There's still hope that it finds an audience and streaming just before the awards season cycle officially kicks in. Now, I already mentioned some of the criticisms that were pointed to this movie: too slow, too quiet, too emotionally distant. And look, all that, it's fair, but I guess as I already mentioned, that's also the point, because the director made a film that refuses the dopamine hits of mainstream storytelling. It's not a spectacle, it's an observation. A film that looks at pain without trying to package it into triumph. And yes, it's almost poetic that a film like this would bomb at the box office. So if you're tired of inspirational montages, tired of Hollywood redemption arcs, and want to see what happens when vulnerability replaces victory, this is the film to watch. I believe it will be reappraised in years to come. Because after all, The Smashing Machine got me singing the praises of a biopic made by A24. And that's no small feat.